spoken, velvet voice. Slide on in. You are now tuned in to the Black Death. Blaxploitation 101 podcast where the streets talk and the reels roll. This is more than a podcast. It's a revolution with rhythm. 101, baby! Now let's get into it!
Welcome to the Black Deth 101 podcast, where the streets talk and the reels roll. We dissect our favorite blaxploitation films that saved Hollywood and still influence it today. I am your host, Nubius Black, and giving him 5 on the right-hand side, my brother from another mother, Johnny Deth. What's up, Johnny?
Hey, Nubius. I say we hop in our time machine, strap ourselves into those custom barber chairs, and fast forward from the 70s, past the 80s, the 90s, the aughts, to 2025. What do you think?
Yeah, that sounds like a plan. Back to the future and in the future again, basically.
Absolutely. So, go ahead. Hit them with the spoiler warnings, because we got a lot to talk about on this one. And let's dive into it.
There's going to be some serious spoilers in this film, even though there shouldn't be, because everybody listening to this podcast should have seen this movie at least twice. Not once, but twice. Us, personally, I think I've seen this movie 6 times, including last night, just to bone up. This movie, it touches on race relations. It touches on spirituality versus religion. It touches on a lot of things, the dichotomy of good and evil. You know, we can't all be saints, but we can always be sinners. And that is what we're hitting with today, because we are going to do the next few episodes for movies nominated for Academy Awards of the Black genre and give them the lowdown of this film.
Well, as always, we need to take a quick look and see what America was like, what was happening way back in 2025. It's a nation scrolling with one eye open and the other bruised. You see, the future showed up early. It kicked the door in and demanded a password, a face scan, and your soul in HD. Bills still due, ghosts still hungry. The rich got rockets, the poor got subscriptions. Truth comes with a paywall. Lies stream for free. Every man's a brand now. Every woman, a headline. And everybody is just one bad week from hollering at the moon. And don't get it twisted. This fire didn't start in the streets. It fell from above, slow and deliberate, lit by those in power who thrive on the smoke. They fed the nation noise instead of truth, pitted neighbor against neighbor, then stepped back to watch it burn and called it order. This is a country humming with anger, dancing on the fault line, smiling through clenched teeth. Hope still there, knuckles taped, waiting on the bell for one more round. But listen close, cool cats and funketeers. America has been here before. There was a time when hope walked the streets with a busted lip and a raised fist. Early 1960s hope, scarred, stubborn, unbought. Hope that knew the house was rotten and still believed it could be rebuilt. Hope that understood power never gives back. It has to be taken. That spark didn't die. They just tried to smother it with chaos. That's where sinner comes in, baby, because when the system shrugs, when God's on voicemail and salvation's been outsourced, sometimes the only thing left to do on a Saturday night is to look hell in the eye, listen to the music, and dance.
And that's exactly what they do in this film, because it's literally everything you said that's happening and the Wayback Machine of 2025/2026. Like you said, it happened before, it will happen again. In this film, it literally shows you the struggle of people just trying to make it to that next day, then trying to make it to Saturday just so they can let out all their negative emotions, all their frustrations, but in a positive way. You know, they're not out there burning down houses and causing chaos. They just having drinks and trying to have a good time and just forget about the pains of the work week. And we're talking about sharecroppers. And these people are put in a position of an ever-ending circle. They are fresh out of slavery, but can't own nothing. They could still work, and the ex-slave owners will put them to work, lease them the tools so they could do the work, but only pay them enough to keep them in debt. Sounds familiar? It's happening today.
Sounds familiar. And they pay them quite often with company script, which is only you can only use it at the company store. So you work for these farmers, you're a sharecropper, and they pay you in script. So anything you buy, you're still buying from them. Just like you said, that you lease the tools, you get a shack to live on, and you work yourself to the bone every day. And Ryan Coogler's Sinners drops us right into this. The Mississippi Delta in Jim Crow South in 1932, a place already haunted before anything supernatural shows up. Now, identical twins, Elijah and Elias, or better known as Smoke and Stack, the Smokestack twins, they're both World War I veterans, hardened by violence, and then years running with Chicago's criminal mobs. They return home to Clarksdale, Mississippi. Now, Smoke and Stack represent two survival philosophies. Smoke believes in boundaries, protection, keeping the evil out, while Stack believes in movement, compromise, survival through flexibility. And neither is fully right, neither is fully wrong, and they both pay for it. So, armed with stolen money and unfinished business, they buy an old sawmill from a local landowner. I think his name was Hogwood.
Yes, sir.
And they plan to turn it into a juke joint for the Black community, a place for music and sweat, momentary freedom in this world built to deny all three. Their younger cousin, Sammy, also known as Preacher Boy, is a gifted blues singer and guitarist. His father, well, the film actually opens with him returning to the church. This tells us this film is really from Sammy's point of view. He joins them despite warnings from his father, Jebediah, who sees blues as an invitation to damnation. He wants Sammy to play God's music. But what Sammy carries isn't just talent, it's something older,
Yes.
something that bends time and memory when he plays. The first part of the movie, the twins go around and they assemble a found family. Delta Slim on piano, Grace and Bo Chow, a Chinese couple that own two shops, one on the black side of the street, one on the white side of the street.
Oh, you noticed that, didn't you? You see how the production design was made where it was rustic and run down on the black side of the street, and with buggies and carts, mules, some beat up old trucks. But then you look directly across the street, especially in that oneer that Coogler puts out when Annie's not Annie, Grace's daughter had to go across the street to get her. That's a one shot. That means the camera follows that little girl from one store in the street, across the street, other store, turn around and back. It was a beautiful shot. But you could see again, dichotomy. I wrote that in big bold print in my notes that there's a lot of that going on in this movie. And you can see this is you get all the catchphrases that we grew up on. The other side of the street, the other side of the tracks. We got that. I wouldn't pay for that with a wooden nickel. And I remember those coins, man. My godmother, I used to sit on Saturdays when I needed babysitting And my godmother would sit there and tell stories. And she was from a Seminole African group of people in Florida. She used to just tell stories about like how, you get the old, well, in my day, but oh my God, who would have thought she was so correct on everything she said? She lived a long, long time. And I want to say like into her early 90s, but she would talk about wooden nickels and she went in a drawer and she pulled out all these chips. We thought they were wooden game pieces. And she was like, no, this was real spending money. And each store had their logo printed on these carved out wooden tokens, if you will. And you couldn't spend them anywhere else. As a child, you don't know nothing like that. You know about the silver and the dollars, and you know about that type of money. But it just was so eye-opening with the detail in this film. And again, the word of the day is dichotomy. If you talked about Smoke and Stack, if you notice, they hint that they both were on different gangs in Chicago. The Capone
Oh,
gang,
yeah.
and I wanna say
The
the
Irish
yeah,
mob.
yeah, the Irish, and
So what they did was they stole the wine from the Italian mob.
right.
They stole the beer from the Irish mob. They stole money from both and made each one look like it was the other that stole it. Then they stepped out, setting up the mobs to fight each other while they go back home and open their juke joint.
Did you notice also, again, dichotomy, people, Smoke wore blue all the time. His clothes were accented in blue, and he wore, uh, a fedora. Like, the red was it the red fedora? I wanna say it was the red fedora and the blue snap cap. The blue was for the snap caps were for the Irish mob, and the red fedora was for the Italian mob. I mean, it's in your face, but you're not really thinking about it. And then when you were driving home, you go, "There's reasons for that. There's some serious reasons for that." And again, a any movie that makes you for me, any movie that makes me think more than a day has done something to me. And this movie had done a lot for me. It made me want to go deeper. Plus my lived experience of my parents coming from down south. They were from Virginia. And my mother reminded me of stories that she told that Mary told, played by Haley Seinfeld. My mother was passing because of her grandmother being from Scotland. You see what I'm saying? And they lived in the time and in Virginia out it's now called Essex, where it was in the woods where my grandparents could be safe because they wouldn't go out and to the, you know, public society, if you will, with a white, woman and a black man. That's a death sentence. And they raised a bunch of kids. And those kids, a lot of the kids on my mother's side, my aunts, uncles, a lot of them passed. And then you have my father, who was the complete opposite. He was like Annie from Virginia, and he was a darker skinned man. As he would say that I get in the car and the oil light comes on. That's how bad he was. But it makes me put in consideration that I have to take my hat off to these people, not just for being my parents, but the shit they must have had to go through. And I've heard stories of like my dad having to grab my mom's head and put it down on his lap when he's driving through certain towns just so they wouldn't see her. And because they would have stopped him and probably killed him. So they had to get out of Virginia because it was just like not safe living there. And that's why they moved up northeast. The Great Migration, they called it. But it's just fascinating that they captured a lot of that in this movie. You know, I'm surprised they didn't show the bag test. You know what the bag test is?
No, what is a bag
The
test?
bag test is they had certain clubs and like you said, juke joints and whatnot, that sadly, even blacks discriminated against other blacks. That if your skin was darker than a paper bag, you were not allowed in. So my dad
Wow.
couldn't go to a lot of places because he failed the bag test, unless they was using some hefty motherfuckers as plastic ones because they weren't using them then. These were all paper bags, and they had the paper bag test. And you go to. We always grew up thinking, what is worse, racism between whites and blacks or light-skinned blacks who had preferential treatment to dark-skinned blacks because the dark-skinned blacks, they had to work on the fields. The light-skinned blacks most likely stayed in the house. And my mother had to do stuff like that to go shopping for groceries to pass the bag test. And obviously she did, but my dad had to park around the block. You know what I mean? To actually just
Yeah.
to feed themselves. So this movie did open up a lot of, and I wouldn't say wounds, but memories that I guess suppressed because you're trying to get over and you're trying to get by. And I have a lot of, I have people tell me on Facebook, like, when I post things that are serious to me, and they go, "Don't you ever have anything happy to say?" And I'm like, I do. I have happy moments all the time, just like everybody else. I said, but some people just need to know that people of color really had to fucking fight for every little bit. We had to fight to be poor. And that logic sounds ridiculous, but it's true. We had to fight to be poor or just to exist to show that, hey, we share this planet just like everybody else. And, we can do all the marching and preaching and praying and at the end of the day, we just got to do it for ourselves because, think about it. You had the civil rights movement. That was a good thing. You had civil rights came in, voters' rights came in. They're being, whittled down to the bone now. And the civil rights, for all the work that blacks did in the past, ironically, when you watch this movie and you see Grace and Chayton, her husband, they made out better than black people did. Think about it. The Asians made out way better than black people did. And I'm not trying to cast disparages on anyone. That is just a fact. When World War II came and they ended up being put in camps, they were taken out of those camps and gave reparations. Hell, we paid to fix Germany. Hell, we paid to fix Japan. Yet people like, Buddy Guy and Delroy Lindo, those actors, they grew up in a world where pull up your bootstraps and get it for yourself, just to lose it all. You could pull up your bootstraps all you want, and next thing you know, you're having Black Wall Street. And that's what this movie, think about it. They had to burn down the juke joint just to fucking get a little bit of fucking freedom for a day. But yeah, this movie opened up a lot of shit for me. So yeah, if I'm a little long-winded, that's why.
Yeah, that's quite all right. That's quite all right. And that street was not CGI. It was not done in an LED volume set. They built this film from the ground up because Coogler didn't want to make a CG vampire movie. He wanted to do something a little deeper and disguise it as a action vampire film. So at this point, they've gotten everyone together. Oh, and Annie. Smoke goes to get Annie. Annie is Smoke's, I guess, estranged wife
Right.
and cook. She believes in hoodoo, and that kind of clashes with Smoke's grief over the death of their infant daughter. Elsewhere, the danger is already moving. Remick, an Irish immigrant vampire, he's played by Jack O'Connell. And if you were able to get out and see 28 years later,
Yeah.
The Bone Temple, he plays Jimmy in that. So we got 2 movies out right now where Jack O'Connell is
It's
just
crazier than bat shit in both films.
Yes, he is. So this vampire, he hides from a Choctaw vampire hunting group while sheltering with a married clan couple whom he promptly turns. Now, Remick isn't a feral monster like the vampires in, say, 30 Days a Night, and he's not a glowy, wimpy, romantic vampire like in those, what are those movies called? Twilight. So he's an articulate, he's strategic, but also deeply lonely. He's carrying the memory of a lost people that he wants to resurrect through music. And on opening night, the juke comes alive. Sammy's playing becomes transcendent.
Right. He opens that veil that they spoke about. Did you notice that Remick's first victims that he got after the Choctaws walked away, which I thought were also portrayed well. I would have liked to see more of the Choctaws chasing him, to be honest. That's one little
Oh,
thing
that
that
would be
I
great.
would have liked to see. But again, representation matters. They used real Choctaw Indians in this film, and I thought that was really cool. The clothing, everything was on point. But when Remick went into the house to get protection, those people weren't like that kindly couple. They were Klansmen because Smallwood or whatever his ass, that was his uncle.
Hogwood.
Hogwood, yeah, that
Like,
was his uncle. And you can see the Klan uniforms hanging around. Now I'm gonna ask a question before you finish. Did this couple have a baby? Because there's a baby fucking not carriage, a crib in there. Did they eat the fucking baby? Think about it.
oh,
They would only do.
now I got to watch this a seventh time.
They would only need that baby for sustenance because they're not, Remick won't get any of the psychic backlash from that child because the child has no lived experience.
Right. So
He-
not really part of the hive mind.
right. And Remick is his vampire, and I like the way they played it. It's more like the Borg from Star Trek, where
Oh, it's very much like that.
very much it's the world we live in today. Let's be real. I remember back when President Obama was running for the first term and everybody was on his ass because of his background and if he was born in America, that's that whole chestnut. To be afraid of the
Earther
other.
nonsense.
Let's be afraid of the other. The other is going to take away your guns and your life and everything else. But the bottom line is the world, even till today, is called assimilation. A lot of the hip hop artists of today that's worth listening to, we're talking about like last year's Super Bowl just basically said it. They not like us is because they love the art but hate the artists. And my man Delta Slim said that when they were in the car ride. And he's like, white folks love the blues. They just don't like the people who play it and lived it. That's when they drove past, the chain gang and all that. And when he told his story of how him and his friend got arrested and were forced to play for these rich upper crust white people. And then the guy took his money, his partner took his money, was going to open a church. But they set him up and, they seen he had all this money and the train guy called the cops and the cops called the Klan and they beat this poor man, hung him there at the train depot and cut off his meat, and you could just see that scene alone got Delta Slim, Delroy Lindo nominated for Academy Award, I think. Because you could see the hurt and the pain in his face. And I remember, like, again, going back to my godmother, that when she would get mad, she would be yelling at us. And just before she's ready to burst, she'll just break out in a hum. That brought back some serious memories, that were, I want to say this. I want to get it off my chest. I just want to scream, but I have to restrain myself. And I will just hum and clap my hands or stomp my feet and get it out another way, Watching that really brought back memories. So, yeah.
So Sammy is playing. He's summoning spirits from past and from the future. And this is the same sound that draws Remick and his hive, vampires who cannot enter without invitation. Now, Smoke can tell something's wrong. He immediately refuses to let them in. But reality closes in fast. Now, when they arrive very polite. They don't arrive with spectacle. They arrive like trouble always does. Polite, patient, smiling. At about this time, the twins realize that the patron's reliance on the company's script means the joint can never truly succeed. Now, Mary, Stack's former lover, that he abandoned for years and got her married to a white man to protect her from white violence, steps outside and she's turned by Remick. She returns, seduces Stack, and kills him, only for him to rise again. These vampires, they change fast.
Yeah. And she was also invited in, too. That was slick. The way, aren't you going to let me in? I like the way they did that.
Yeah.
Well, of course, Mary. Come on.
Definitely. Cornbread lets her in.
Cornbread is the soul of this movie. I will die on that hill. Cornbread A is
Cornbread is
funny,
fantastic.
great actor. This guy needs to get more roles. Omar Benson Miller, and I don't want him just to play the big goofy guy. I'm pretty sure he's got range, but the time he had, he maximized his minutes. He chewed the scenery. He was fantastic in everything he did. Everybody was. It's not every day you can't watch a film where you can say, "Well, this actor was good and this actor was mediocre." It's like everybody was working so hard on this picture. Nobody worked harder than Michael B. Jordan because he had to play 3 roles, and I count 3 as
Yes.
Smokestack and the vampire, because the vampire act totally different as well. So anybody who says this guy, was just a flash in the pan, I don't know where the hell y'all been because wow. That's all I'm saying is wow. Keep making movies
With
with
Coogler.
Coogler and he'll be
Yes.
fine. Everybody in
Hell
this
yeah.
film was
So
good. I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
it's quite all right because this cast is superlative. Uh, Smoke, seeing that Stack is dead, he shoots Mary a bunch of times,
No
but she
shit.
gets back up and escapes. Cornbread is turned because he has to go take a leak. The infection spreads, and Annie recognizes what they're facing. And she teaches the survivors how to fight vampires, garlic, sunlight, willpower. Uh, in fact, there's one scene where they see some blood on the floor and they figure one of them is turned. And if you guys have seen The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing with Kurt Russell, there's that scene where they do the blood test. And I find that this is a riff on that. And I thought it was fantastic, where each person has to eat a little clove of garlic, and all the pickled garlic is gone. So this is just raw garlic.
Right,
Ugh.
right.
And then Remick reveals the final threat. Hogwood is clan, and at dawn, an attack is coming, and he offers a deal: immortality, safety, freedom in exchange for Sammy and his music. They, of course, refuse. And at its core, as we've been saying, Sinners isn't about vampires, it's about systems that feed.
Right.
Remick doesn't represent evil, he represents assimilation through erasure. The offer is seductive: immortality, safety, unity, freedom from persecution, but the cost is your identity, your
Exactly.
history, choice. Exactly. You live forever, but
But
you don't get to be yourself
you're not
anymore.
yourself anymore because there is no self. It's just the one. And the way I see
Like
it,
the
like
Borg.
exactly, vampires are like they're cultural vampires, just like we have in the real world. I mean, what did Remy said that he wanted from Sammy? Because he sensed Sammy's gift when Sammy transcended with that song, and dude, that song gives me goosebumps just talking about it. That is a great fucking song. I love the soundtrack to this movie. Ludwig Göransson should win the Academy Award. Hats off to that guy.
Absolutely.
That dude is fantastic. What can't he do? And they're cultural
There have been
vampires.
other great there have been other great film scores this past year, but this film score is a character.
Yes, it's part
It's the
of the show.
soul of the movie.
I agree
Absolutely.
100%. Because you see
Yeah,
what
that's the trick.
people, they're like they said, Kendrick Lamar said in the last Super Bowl performance that he did, they're not like us. They want the dance, the music, the food, the fashion. Vampires in this movie are like that. They're cultural assimilators. And Remick is doing it not for, like you said, not for evil's sake. He thinks if he takes all this and absorbs all this as much as he can bring back this lost tribe of people that he's missing. And he tells a little
Yeah.
story, if you picked up on it, that the English came to Ireland and caused 90% of this shit. Where they said and then they forced Christianity on his people and on him. He even said the words bring him comfort, but he knows nothing but pain. I mean, you don't hate Remick. You really don't. And that's what makes a good villain when the villain actually has some truth going on in there. You know, you may not like what he's doing, but dude, nothing but the truth. Remick did not lie to any of these people.
No.
He told them, "You will live through me." You know, and he's using Christianity against itself. You know, by my blood, you will live forever, but you will live through me. It was fucking fantastic. I mean, again, special effects when it came to like vampire and shit kept at the minimum. They really did. You got
Yeah.
the creepy eyes, you got some fangs, a lot of blood effects, but he didn't turn into no bat or any shit like that. You know, they kept it simple because the story was way more important than everything else. Even if you listen to when Bert, Joan, and Remick were singing, listen to the words of the song they were singing. The what was the one about the bird picking poor Robin clean?
That's it. Pick poor Robin clean.
That
Yes.
you can change the Robin for the person, for the human. We're gonna pick the human clean, but keep his essence. That's what that song's about. It's an odd song because everything is so bluesy, and then you get a folk Irish song just thrown in there. But it's not just thrown in there willy-nilly. It's telling a story, it's telling you what's about to happen. It's telling you what Remick's about to do and what he's trying to do. Oh God. I could talk about this movie all goddamn day. It's got so much good shit in it. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, would you not agree that people should watch Sinners, then go back and watch uh, Lovecraft Country?
Oh, yeah.
That
Yeah.
is
I
that is a
think that
perfect movie day if I ever heard one because they blend right in. And Wunmi Mosaku, she's in that as well. That plays Annie, and this movie again, I wrote in big letters. Could have went Hollywood. I don't know if you wrote, you know what I mean by Hollywood. Hollywood, they could have
yes.
literally cast Halle Berry and every other light skinned black person in this for this movie, and then said, "See, we're trying." They didn't. The irony of the whole thing is Haley Seinfeld, where people rolled their eyes at when they first heard she was going to be in this movie. Then when you realize, you know, her background, you go, well, goddamn, who else could have played this role? It's perfect because
It
the
is.
women in this movie are not quote unquote Hollywood beautiful. They are dark skinned, powerful, strong black women in this movie, as well as
Mm.
Lee Jun Lee. She's great in the role of Gracie Chow. She's powerful and she's strong. She didn't take shit, but her weakness, like everybody else's, was her children. When she found out, when he says, "Hey, I'll just go back and get your daughter," you know what I mean? And then that even fucked me up. I'm like, that's some cold blooded shit. And Remick is using her husband to say this shit because he knows
Yeah. And
everything
then
that the
Remick's
husband knows.
talking to her in Chinese
Yeah,
as
about
well.
how she likes to be pleasured in bed. How fucked up is that?
Exactly. It's totally
And
fucked up.
there was a lot of cunnilingus jokes in this movie. I don't know if you picked up on it.
No, they were all over the place.
Right.
Find
You
that
know, you
button.
touch that little button with your tongue like you're eating that ice cream from downtown. Not too hard, not too
Not
soft.
too hard, not too soft. Oh, I want to go back to Ludwig Göransson's role. I think goes much deeper than composer. I was reading up on this, and for this film he studied early Delta blues structures, but not just the sound, rather the function of the music, how it could carry memory and community, grief and love and warning. So Sammy's music isn't magical because it's loud. It's magical because it's honest. And Göransson layered period instruments with subtle, I don't know, almost subliminal modern textures, quietly bending time the way
Right,
the
right.
film does.
And that's what you
And
get.
for those yeah, and for those vampires, the hive mind was designed as a production rule. They all had their rehearsals together, separate from everyone else. So it wasn't just a story idea. They rehearsed movement, posture, pacing, so that even when separated, they'd feel unified, like a single thought moving through multiple bodies. You said it best, Borg like,
Yeah.
that hive mind.
Remember when the
And
vampires
part of
were dancing? They were all doing the same
yeah,
dance.
exactly.
Creepy.
They're all wheels and cogs in the same psychic machinery. And the juke joint then becomes the opposite force from the vampires. It's a fragile, temporary space where the people are poor, exploited, and doomed, but human. And the music, again, back to the music, it isn't escape, it's witness. Sammy's gift doesn't save people, it remembers them. And then when Grace, in that moment of rage and grief,
Yeah.
she freaking shouts to the vampires, "Y'all just come on
Come on
in."
in,
She invites
motherfuckers.
them inside.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
fucked
and
me up,
Hall
dude. I was like, I would have to slap Grace right now.
oh, yeah. All hell breaks loose, and really, by sunrise, nearly everyone is dead. The remaining vampires, they're burning in the daylight. Smoke sends Sammy away before, Hogwood and the Klansmen show up, and I hate to say it, but he's fatally shot. But in Death, Smoke reunites with Annie and their daughter,
You remember Annie
and then
said that to him. When she
yeah,
was dying and he
she's
was trying
waiting.
to save her, she said, "You promised. We made a promise, and you promised that you will not let me turn and that you will help me transcend. Because if you do, I'll be waiting for you. We'll both be waiting for you." And I didn't really think that through until they showed it, and I was like, "Wow, that's poetic right there. That was really poetic." He was almost dead when he seen her and his child and old fucking what was his name? Wormwood? Peckerwood.
Hogwood, Hogwood.
Peckerwood. He he was like, "I got some money. I got some money." He came back to life for a little bit just to riddle his ass with bullets. And then when he finally
Yeah,
succumbed to his death, he was there with his baby and with his love. And I thought that was beautiful. Brought tears to my eyes. It was really well done with the banjo playing in the background. Oh
huh,
man, that shit was sweet. And I'm saying to
it was
myself,
amazing.
just the way it was put together. Again, dichotomy, people. We're talking about an all-white A-frame church to almost an A-frame, all dark-colored juke joint. That was really there to kill slaves and black people because the first thing Stack seen was fucking blood on the floor. You clean these floors, and because that's where the Klan would take their fucking victims, kill them, and then lie and say that they were just this was like some kind of fucking a mill. It was a mill, all right, but it was a killing field. And I just thought,
Yeah, I don't
you
think
know,
it had been a mill for a while, and that's
exactly,
that dichotomy you're talking about again. We got the church and we got the mill, opposite sides of the coin.
exactly, and that's through the whole film.
And we jump forward to 1992, and Sammy is now an elderly blues player, and you can tell he's been real successful, and he's visited by Stack and Mary, and they haven't aged a fucking day. Stack reveals that Smoke spared him on the one condition that Sammy must live free. And he offers Sammy the gift of the immortality again, and he declines. He admits that, despite the horror of that opening night, and he still wakes at least once a week, paralyzed with fear from a nightmare about it. But up until the vampire showed up, that was the greatest day of his life. And Stack agrees.
Yeah, he said that was the time they felt free.
And it was also the last time they were all together alive. And for Stack and Mary, last time they saw the sun.
Yeah, and it's also, shout out to Buddy Guy playing the adult Sammy, the real Buddy Guy. And they said he performed every night on set just to keep the spirits up. Like, you needed that in this film. I think everybody there looked like they would work for free for crying out loud. They knew they were making magic when they made this film. And there's a little couple things I wanted to see, being the cinephile that you are. Did you
Mhm.
notice that when Sammy, the adult Sammy's at the bar and he's drinking his drink and he's looking ahead at the bartender and there's a mirror behind him, the bartender. When Mary and Stack shows up, they walk right past that mirror and you don't see no reflection.
No
And I thought
reflection.
that was
No.
I thought that was a cute little nod there. And I like the fact that I'm looking at the clothes that, Stack is wearing. I'm like, I used to dress like that.
Yeah,
I
he's
had
got
that
that,
haircut.
early '90s hip hop
Yep, I had that
look.
haircut. I had those Cosby sweaters. You know what I mean? I just thought that was a really neat take, and it was cool because it looks like Mary and Stack. They're going to just live it, continue to exist on. But my question is, do they have the powers that Remick had? So if they're biting
Mm,
people, are they absorbing their cultures and their abilities? That's a good question, right?
that's a great question. If Sammy had turned, he absolutely would have had those powers.
Right. Because Sammy is a griot. He had powers
Yeah.
before he would have became a vampire. But that's why his blues were so well. He became so famous because of his ability to transcend time and space with his music. And I think the audience actually, basically, for lack of any other way of putting it, they were literally getting high off of his music and experiencing what he experienced. He was sharing his lived experience, so they were living his blues when he was playing it. So even when he went and played traveling again, back, for Mary and Stack, I think they even kind of felt it a little bit. They're vampires, so they're not human anymore, but they still felt a little bit of that pull of the griot, of the
Mhm.
ancient African griots. And I just thought there's so many little things that are placed in this film that a lot of people ain't paying. A lot of people I know will watch it and go, it's a vampire movie. It's like Dusk Till Dawn. Totally not like
Oh,
Dusk
no.
Till Dawn. And Dusk Till Dawn is a great movie, but
I love it,
totally,
but
totally,
this
totally not like it.
transcends.
Yeah, this is different. Dusk Till Dawn didn't was a vampire movie with
Crime
Mesoamerican
elements.
undertones, and I like that because you get tired of seeing these gothic fucking European Euro trash motherfuckers running around wearing capes and tuxedos. So Dusk Till Dawn was a great gateway of there's other vampires of other cultures, and that's what this is. This was a vampire from the Irish culture, but jammed into Southern Jim Crow culture, and that's the only way I can
Yeah.
put it. And they again, it just sheesh. You're like the only guy I know to talk to that knows this stuff because a lot of other people I know, they know it and they watch it and they like it for what they see. And some people, we're in a world now where some people don't want to fucking, you know, dig into anything. They want to take it for face value, and that's fine. But this movie is more than face value. A lot of Ryan Coogler's films are more than face value. From Fruitville Station to the Creed films to Black Panther. There are so many different things in these movies that a lot of people just don't really realize. Like I had recently, when I was discussing with a coworker that we were going to do this episode on Sinners, and she didn't see Sinners yet, and I said, "What's wrong? Your legs broke? You don't got HBO? You can't get bootleg? What? I mean, there's no excuse not to see it." Sadly, it's because they're so in their dogma, and their dogma dictates. Oh, I can't watch that because it may belittle my dogma. And I'm like, this is not belittling Christianity. It's not belittling any religion. They don't even really mention it for the most part. It's just a visual cue and you make up your own mind. But they get weird about stuff like that with their dogma. And that's what they gotta live with. But they're like, well, why don't you just do one of them Black Panther? That's easier. I said, that's where you're wrong. Black Panther is just as complex as this movie.
Yes.
Because I asked the lady, she said, I seen Black Panther 4 or 5 times. It's a great movie. I said, who was the villain? She goes, Michael B. Jordan and the white guy with one hand. I said, you couldn't be more far from the truth. I
King
said,
T'Chaka.
the people you just picked are the fucking victims. T'Chaka, T'Challa's father, is the villain. Bottom line.
Yes.
None of the bad
King
shit would have
T'Chaka.
happened if he didn't act the way he acted.
He
But
could
one
have
day,
just taken the kid with him.
yep, and we're gonna get to that movie one day. But this
Oh,
movie,
yes, we have to.
we've been at it, and we didn't touch half of the shit. I got notes out the ass on this fucking film, but I'm gonna keep them just so I don't never forget. This movie is nominated for a world record of 16 Academy Awards. And
It opened in New York City. It premiered at the AMC, formerly Lowe's, formerly Sony Lincoln Center Theater in 70 millimeter on their giant screen, and then it went wide on April 18th, 2025. The film was both a critical and a commercial success. It's grossed almost 400 million worldwide against a $90 million budget. And that's saying something. It landed on pretty much all the top 10 lists for 2025. It's gotten major awards recognition, including, as you said, 16 Academy Award nominations, 13 BAFTA nominations, a bunch of Critics' Choice wins. Golden Globes recognized it for cinematic and box office achievement, and ensemble honors and praises across the boards. But awards aside, I think it's going to endure because it understands something ancient.
right, ancient and
Music,
in the not so distant past.
yes, music as survival, monsters as systems, and freedom as something you taste once and spend the rest of your life chasing.
Yeah, bro. You can't you nailed it on that one. And we got to give props though for this one special deal. A lot of we talked about Black Panther a second ago. Marvel was going to do a movie, a reboot of Blade, starring Mahershala Ali. And
Yes,
I don't know why making a Blade movie is so hard to write. I think me and Chuck could make this. We could write this in a fucking day, where it would make sense, and all the others. We are movie people, so we know what happened in Marvel in the past. We could easily slot Blade into the MCU proper. It's not that hard. Somehow
absolutely.
these motherfuckers are making it harder than it is. So when the Blade
You know
movie
what
got
they need to do? At least for the script or story? Call up Guillermo del Toro.
no,
Bring him in.
why can't we do it? Fuck Guillermo, he got
Well,
money. We can do this.
okay.
We literally can do it. It's not that hard. It's not that hard. And one day we're gonna tell you, we may even do an episode of how we would make Blade. For shits and giggles. It could be an addendum.
I think that would be fun.
I think it
We
would be
should do
too. How
that.
we could make Blade and honor the past movies at the same time. And when you hear what we got to say, I don't even know what you're going to say, but I bet it'd be better than what Hollywood is trying to conjure up, because
I think the problem is that they're overthinking it. I think they're
really,
trying too hard to make something that isn't that difficult,
no,
something that's pure, something that they already have a couple of movie blueprints they can look at. Look at Blade. Look at Blade 2. If you got nothing else to do, maybe watch Blade 3. And then decide what should come next
what works and what
for
doesn't.
a new Blade. Exactly.
And,
Exactly.
and and the way I see it also is like rumor has it they offered Blade to Coogler. When Coogler looked at the script and said, "This is not a shootable script. It just makes no sense." And I don't want to. He didn't want to actually go out there and put his name on something just so it's a factory made Marvel film. And he said he had way much more respect for Mahershala Ali than to do this to him. Not to mention, after he said no, he says, "I got a vampire story I'm kind of writing now anyhow, so I'm going to stick with what I'm going to do and see if I can shop it around." And ironically enough, there's two ironic parts that directly connects to Sinners. One is Delroy Lindo was playing Whistler in the new Blade movie.
Hmm.
And
I
Delroy
like
Lindo
that.
waited, and he waited, and he waited, and Coogler was like, "Yo, I wrote this scene just for you." And he said, "Fuck it, let's do it." And that's one that defected from the Marvel Blade. Two, all the costumes made for Blade reboot because they wanted to put it in the 1930s or 40s. Ruthie Carter, Academy Award winning costume designer for Malcolm X, Black Panther, Do the Right Thing, you name, if it's black, her name is on it. And she made all these costumes for Blade, and the Blade movie didn't get made. So Coogler bought them all and put them in his movie centers. So there's the fucking physical connection of Blade with the MCU and centers. It's just like amazing that they how things worked out. And again, it's just I wish Marvel nothing but the best. I love those type of movies, but when I heard they were going to do Blade, and I was like, wow, that should be out in a year.
You even hear him at the end of, what was it,
Right.
Elementals?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Eternals. The Eternals. And the
Eternals,
and the
yes.
Eternals, again, beautifully shot, filmed on location, gorgeous film. I loved everything about that movie as well. The acting, the character design. But then they lost it when it was like, why didn't you help when Thanos was doing his shit? We were told not to. Okay, that works. And that's what lost everybody. When you come up with a
Yes.
stupid fucking ending like that, that's the excuse. When they could have easily wrote this out of the MCU proper and put it in another timeline or another universe, we wouldn't be having these issues. But I digress. We're gonna
Hey,
do an episode.
speaking about the MCU, I gotta throw out, some kudos to Wonder Man, a show that up until the time I
Fantastic. You
watched
turned
it,
me on to
I
that.
thought it was gonna be it was phenomenal. Loved it. Great show about making movies
About
and
actors.
superhero stuff too.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely about
And a
actors.
lot of people who want to watch this and think you're gonna get superheroics throughout the whole thing, you are watching the wrong show. This is a show about a man with mental illness, in my opinion. But you say all actors act that way because you were in the Hollywood sphere.
I would say a lot of American actors in the opening episode, Wonder Man basically has a small part in a TV show, and he overthinks it to
And
the point that
he
they let him
fucks
go.
it up and they fire him.
Yeah, and it's great, and it's brilliant, and it rings true.
And
A great show,
yeah,
really great
it
show, and it
shows
also sets up how they're gonna be going against mutants coming
right.
soon.
And this movie kind of says that Wonder Man may be a mutant because he had got these powers once his puberty kicked in.
Yes, he's
It,
definitely a mutant.
and
He's definitely an
I
X.
say it's a good watch, ladies and gentlemen. Go out and watch this film. Just watch it for Trevor. If you don't watch it for anything else, Trevor will make you love everybody in it because Trevor is getting screwed over because he's an idiot. But at the end, he is literally the Jiminy Crickets to Wonder Man's fucking Pinocchio,
Yes.
right?
He is, and we actually see growth in this Trevor Slattery
And you see
character.
growth in Wonder Man.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's fantastic. Love that show.
I enjoyed it.
Sinners deserves Best Picture this year. I know that I've flip-flopped once or twice,
Dude,
because I also loved one battle after another, but this is it.
I think
It has to win.
they're gonna give that a cat Best Picture to Chloe Zhao, who directed fucking the Eternals that we just talked about, and they're gonna give it to that Hamnet film. I told you before weeks ago.
Yes,
I
you
said,
did.
now that Sinners is nominated for all these awards, I said all we need is a British speaking fucking bio doc, and automatically Hamnet came out. And now is nominated for all these goddamn awards. I said,
Oh,
yo,
well, we're not far
dude,
away, so we'll see,
you gotta
and
admit,
next
dude,
week
you white people know how to fucking wedge yourself into everything. Y'all will wedge yourself into shit. Y'all good at that. So so again, 5 stars plus this movie. We didn't touch half of the notes that we wanted to touch. We were running long. Go see this fucking movie. Take time out. Enjoy it. Again, and if you're really lazy, watch this movie and watch Lovecraft Country. I think it works great together. And what are we doing next week?
And both are on HBO for you.
Yes.
Well, I think next week we're doing Lady Sings the Blues.
Oh boy, that's a depressing ass film, but it's good too. So Billy
Yes,
Dee's
it
in it
is. Yes, it is.
with his handsome ass
Yep.
self.
Oh, he in that movie, he's beautiful. I think
Right.
half the women in the theater when he showed up slid off their seats.
Throwing panties at the movie screen. Yeah, Billy
Yeah.
Dee is the man. That movie made him. And he did a lot of films before that, but this movie made him. And, everybody knows him as Lando Calrissian, but, man, Billy Dee was great in this movie. And this is basically loosely built on the story of Billie Holiday. So
Oh, very much so.
this ought to be really good. So,
So,
I hope you like the show. Give us a like and a share and follow. And, check us out on YouTube. We have a Facebook page with Black Death 101. YouTube is Blaxploitation 101. Go on Spotify and Apple Podcasts to listen to this podcast and have us, listen to us acting fool. But we love what we're doing, man. It's great shit. And
mhm.
again, if Marvel hears any of this shit, hit us up. We will give you a Blade breakdown, which make total fucking sense. Won't harm anything you did ahead. And you don't even have to pay as much as you paying the Russo brothers. So
We
go,
work cheap.
yeah, we work cheap. We quality, but we work cheap. But
Yes.
come back and join us next week for Lady Sings the Blues for our Academy Award month, and listen to us the same black time.
Same black channel. Peace.
There's a church bell ringing down on Bourbon Street, but it sounds like doubling rain. I've got mud on my boots and blood on my hands, and a saint won't take the blame. Mama said, boy, don't bargain with fire, but the devil plays fiddle in my veins. I was born with a thirst no water can drown, and a love that comes with change. Oh, Father, can you hear me now? Or are you drinking with a damn? We're all just sinners in the moonlight, dancing where the river runs black. Whiskey and ashes on my breath tonight, and there ain't no turning back. Oh, the pipes cry low and the guitars moan like a wake for a broken man. If heaven's closed and hell's half full, I'll take my chances where I stand. There's a girl with eyes like always storms and hands cold as a grave. She kissed me once in a back alley bar, said no one here gets saved. The jukebox played a note slow real, but the rhythm felt like sin. Every step was a funeral march for the soul I should have been. Oh, Mother Mary, don't look down, I'm too far gone to hide. We're all just sinners in the moonlight, praying through a cracked up grin. Whiskey and ashes on my breath tonight, and the dark is closing in. Hear the fiddle weep, hear the bottle break, hear the lost boys cry, amen. If mercy's just a myth they sell, then let the night begin again. Lay me down where the green grass grows, under skies that forgiven my name. But I'll rise again, and when the wind blows cold, still carrying the flame. Oh, the river runs red, the river runs wild, and it don't care what you done. For the devil's got charm, but the saints got scars, and they're carved into everyone. We're all just ashes on my breath tonight. Like a curse I was born. Let the pipe scream high, let the choir shout low, let the guilty testify. If there's grace at the end of this broken road, I'll meet it eye to eye. Whoa. Church bell ringing, rain on 10, another night for sinners to try again.